Hey, Blackbird Pond people, we are up to chapter 5, and Kit finally gets to attend her first service, which is a little bit different from her. For her, remember, her uncle said that was definitely not an option to miss the church service. So she has to go and discuss it just as we get along a little bit. Discuss amongst yourselves. I have some helpers today what she thought of that church service. What do you think? What did she think of that church service? At the very beginning of the chapter, what is her uncle concerned about with Kit? Think about what she's wearing. Why does that concern her uncle? Yeah, he does not want to appear vain. He uses that comment over and over again. He does not want anybody in his family to appear vain because remember, in their community, humbleness is the way to go. You don't want to be a braggart. You don't want to stick out. You want to definitely be humble. Okay, at the bottom of page 51, our author makes a point to say that Rachel said, I am very proud to have her go with us. And then she says, Judith was certainly not proud of her. What is Judith's problem with Kit? What do you think it is? What is the main issue that Judith has with Kit? Discuss that amongst yourselves. Back? All right. Well, on 52, we learn a little bit more about the town. We get to see more of what it's made up of. Now, remember, Kit's a little bit shocked, to say the least, because she thinks when they're going into town that it's going to be this great place. Well, what is town like when Kit sees it? If you look on 52, I want somebody in your group to describe the town. Even better yet, grab a piece of paper in my room and have somebody draw it out. Hit pause because this is going to take a little bit. Okay, are you back? I can't wait to see the drawing of the town that you guys described. Now, I want you to think, how is that like our town? How is that like us? And how is it different? How would you feel living in a town like this? Well, then she goes on to talk about the Puritan church service. And I would not describe it as short, would you? How would you describe the service? Why do you think she feels this way? I mean, to me, it sounds like she was completely, totally, and utterly miserable throughout this entire church service. Why do you think that is? Have you ever felt that way during a particular service if you attend church? And why? Do you think it's a little bit different for her because she did not attend church regularly? Do you think that makes a difference at all? Her attitude, would that make a difference? Or were the Puritans just that strict? Well, I got a kick out of on page 54. It says, a rosy-cheeked boy on the second step with one fleeting motion captured a fly, held it imprisoned against his knees. 4 boys near him were convulsed. What do they mean by convulsed? They're laughing hysterically. Snickers spilled out past hands they clapped over their mouths. A man stepped menacingly from the corner, brandishing a long pole, and Kit winced as 2 sharp raps descended on each lucko's head. So they've captured this fly. These young boys are entertaining themselves, but remember, children are supposed to not play around, not goof off. They're very, very strict, very prim, very proper. I'll get you in a minute, Maddie, okay? Very proper, and so for them to be snickering and stuff is not good at all. Okay, so they are kind of chuckling, and I was thinking back to when I was a kid, and I will never forget, we went to a little country church, and during one of the services, one little boy that sat in their pew, I don't know how many of you attend churches that are small enough where every family has their own pew, and you never sit in another pew. But anyway, this little boy was goofing off, and I will never forget his mom leaned over and thumped him so hard on the ear it like echoed in the church. And of course, my brothers and sister and I we were laughing. And my dad could not get mad at us because he was laughing right along with us. So that just kind of reminded me of that. I had that picture of Jerry thumping Clayton on the head. So when you're reading, don't be afraid to call up your own memories and your own chuckles that you get. All right. Well, after church, our author makes a point to notice how the deacons greet Kit compared to how the deacons' wives greet Kit. And I want you, it's on page 55, I want you to reread that page as a group. And in your discussion document, note the difference. And note why the difference. Why do you think there is such a difference between how the deacons' wives treated Kit compared to how the deacons themselves treated Kit? Go ahead and take a moment, please. Are you back? All right. As Kit's kind of going along, she talks a little bit more to John. And he's very much enthralled with Dr. Buckley's sermon and very much enthralled with Dr. Buckley as a man. And she kind of looks at him like, really? Are you just saying that to be nice, or are you serious? Because she was thoroughly bored during the entire service. Well, then we finally hear Judith speak again. And Judith said, Dr. Buckley's sermons are always inspired. She said demurely. What is demurely? It's very ladylike, very feminine. So she's very demure, very feminine. Especially when he preaches about the final judgment. So she's trying to make a connection with John, especially because John's somebody that Kit knows. And why do you think that's a big deal to Judith? What doesn't she want Kit to have? And why? Put it in your discussion, Doc. All right. Then we meet Mistress Abby. And Kit curtsied, and I'm on 57. It says Kit curtsied, noting with satisfaction that this was one woman who did not despise her vain adornment. So one woman who does not despise how she looks, how she dresses, the clothing that she's wearing. And we meet William after that. Well, why do you think that Mistress Ashby does not despise the way that Kit is dressed? And as they're walking by now, Judith says, hey, you didn't mention there was a hot guy on the ship. And she's like, you mean John Holbrook? I guess I didn't think of him as hot. And she says, well, how do you know each other? And Kit says, well, there was really nobody to talk to. When they go on and they talk a little bit, and the very end, towards the end of the chapter, we end with a big ouch. She says, you certainly made an impression on William Ashby, Judith ventured presently. Now remember, when she first tried on one of Kit's dresses, she's like, oh, if William could see me in this now. And now Judith is telling Kit, well, you made an impression on William. And she said, there was no, perhaps because I was someone new, said Kit. Like, it's not really a big deal. And notice Judith's answer. Perhaps. You aren't exactly pretty, you know. Ow. Why is Judith so rude to Kit? What is Judith's problem with Kit? How do you think that is going to advance the conflict in our story? What is that supposed to do for the conflict in our story? What do you predict is going to happen as a result of those little ouch comments? The fact that she wasn't proud of her. The fact that she flat out stated, no, you're not that pretty. And at the very end of the chapter, what does Judith find out? They are not done with the church service yet. They've gone, and they need to go back. And she is not very happy about it. Well, I hope you enjoyed chapter 5. We'll move on to chapter 6. Make sure you get that study guide turned into me. Make sure the discussion document is shared with me. Thanks, Blackbird Pond people. You're doing great.